Hello and welcome to Divisive Issues, the foul mouse political comic book podcast, where two comic fans and two non-comic fans talk about controversial comic books and comic book history. I'm Sly.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Phil.
And I'm Darryl, and I'm still having a crisis that you guys did not solve. Who am I?
Last time on Divisive Issues, Deathstroke would totally beat up the Justice League guys.
Oh, Dr. Light, how could you? You were supposed to be a good man. You built Mega Man.
So we're doing the second half of Identity Crisis by Brad Meltzer and Rags Morales. If you haven't listened to the first episode, I recommend you do that. But if it's been 2 weeks, like it definitely has for us, then quick recap is Elongated Man's wife Sue was murdered by some mystery assassin who is now targeting other members of the superhero community's supporting casts. And we have learned that in the 70s, the Justice League, after a horrible, I guess there's no light way to put it, rape of the aforementioned Sue Dibney, they started mind-wiping certain villains, like Dr. Light, who was the main suspect, that now, through the autopsy, they know he did not kill Sue. So
Who killed Sue?
We don't know yet.
Sue?
So the search continues.
Who's hanging Janet?
Jean?
Jean Loring, the Adams ex-wife, is right now hanging by a noose, blindfolded on her door after she called him for help by our mystery assassin.
Yeah.
And thus begins issue 4 of Identity Crisis. So it picks up exactly where we left off, but this time coming from the phone, which I don't know if you guys knew this, that's part of the Adams power. He shrinks and goes into phones.
I figured out from reading this comic, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess he rides whatever.
He goes through the fucking phone wire, I guess. Even though he's fucking...
No, it's wireless.
I know what I'm saying. He's wireless. I think canon-wise that was why. It was going through the wire, but now they changed it.
But now he rides the electrons.
Yeah, he's riding the radio waves, sillies.
Yeah. So why does he need the phone for that? There's always radio waves just flying through the air.
Whatever.
Okay, yep, I was gonna be idiot in opposite situation, but...
So he leaps out of the phone through seemingly magic ways and goes into the rope and then grows and saves her. And while he's giving her CPR, even though he's an atheist, as his inner narration tells us, he starts praying, please let her be okay, please let her be okay. And she wakes up and she says, you saved me just like the old days.
Mm-hmm. Which is a little weird to say after being attacked.
Yeah. Yes. But it's also like, I could see being relieved that you are alive.
Yeah, but like someone saves you and you're like, hey, this is just like when we met.
Just like the days that made me divorce you.
Instead of like, oh my god!
So,
anyway.
just like earlier in the story, we now see all the superheroes testing everything and looking, how did they break in?
I love how with Thanagarian, Martian, Apocalyptic, and Kryptonian technology, none of them have like cameras.
Oh, yeah.
That's the easiest fix is just a camera, you know?
Plot hole.
Maybe they're like privacy. Maybe.
Also, spoilers, this whole mystery will be solved with them checking the phone records.
Oh, yeah. Shit.
There's so many, they're like the world's shittiest detectives.
No, they got Miracle Man. He'll figure out how they got in and out immediately.
So then that's Mr. Miracle, not Miracle Man. That's a different guy.
Oh my
God damn it.
Whatever.
For the record, he's only... Never mind. I'm not getting into
No,
the Miracle
stop.
Man.
No,
Man
you're losing it right
Hawkeye,
now.
Birdman, Hawkman,
Elastic
Green
Man.
Lantern, Green Lantern, elastic, elongated.
So... One of the I think funnier parts is they're all looking like for like how they broke through the security system and like did they go through radio waves and all these things, and Superman's like, I'm gonna look at the noose, and he's like, oh, it's a Dutch Marine twist knot, it's a common Boy Scout knot, and they're like, oh, Superman's a Boy Scout, haha.
I hate you. So because of this, they have a momentary belief that it's Slipknot. What's his name?
Yeah,
Slipknot. You remember
Slipknot.
Slipknot from the Suicide Squad movie?
Yeah, it's the guy who fucking
yeah.
had it blown off right away. So they think it's Slipknot for like 5 seconds.
Because they're like, who else would tie a knot besides Slipknot? Like,
I had to make sure I was.
I understand they're following any lead, and they also say like that was his main knot that he uses.
Yeah.
I guess.
So this is what happens when you live in a world filled with supervillains that like to leave like calling cards and stuff. You're like,
Yeah.
obviously.
yeah, I guess that's true. Like, if someone leaves a fucking Joker card, you're like, okay, well.
Yeah, instead of just being like, maybe this card was accidentally left out, you're like, no, this is a lead, definitely.
But also, for what it's worth, Wonder Woman goes there, uses her golden lasso, and he doesn't know anything. They interrogate him for hours. He doesn't know anything, and then Green Arrow is like, this is just a waste of time. We're just following all these dumb leads like a bunch of amateurs. And Superman's like, don't take that tone with me. We're doing our best. And he's like, this is a joke. So he's complaining the exact same way you guys are.
Good.
But by the way, while this is happening, it's a nice key moment. Superman is with his family on the farm, and the Green Arrow's like, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you, Superman. Superman, in like next panel, he's right in front of him saying, you trying to talk smack to me, Green Arrow?
Yeah. Don't take that tone with me.
Yeah. So then we also get a bunch
Is he
of...
as fast as light too?
Yeah, he is. If you ever do the follow-up to the story, there's a key point where somebody has to distract him. So they leave a nuclear bomb that can blow up like the entire galaxy. And Superman has to be distracted for like 2 seconds by flying to the sun for the master plan to carry out.
That's why there's the joke. Can Superman outrun the Flash?
Yeah.
Flash would win, but that's besides the point.
That's Flash can go speed of light, so that's different.
Yeah.
I meant Flash wouldn't run into Superman wouldn't run into a knife.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, Superman fucking is the winner.
So we also get some insight into the villains now. The rumor about Dr. Light being mind-wiped and lobotomized is starting to spread because Dr. Light got away and started telling everyone. So the villains are now saying like...
Yeah, it's not a rumor. He's like, I got mind wiped by them, and they probably do it to you guys too.
And some of them are like, whoa, that's like heroes wouldn't do that. And I was like, they're assholes. Why wouldn't they do that? Some of them are talking about how, like, we have to catch whoever the hell is doing this because, like, going after their families, like, it's just putting lots of heat on us. We just want to rob banks, not, like, be, like, tortured in prison because they think we might have done it because of our knots. Yeah. And then we start to get more development into the Captain Boomerang story.
Yeah, just I'm sorry, I think we can summarize it really quick because it's mostly just payoff for the Tim Drake scene. So just to summarize it real quick so I don't have to keep coming back to it. Throughout the arc, for Boomerang meets up with his son.
So Captain Boomerang had an illegitimate son that, like, the National Enquirer just broke. So he tracked him down, and he's trying to, like, reconnect with him.
Yeah, and they have, like, bonding moments. Like, Boomerang shows him how to throw a boomerang, stuff like that. And through this process, you also learn that this new son actually has super speed, too. So he's actually could be actually deadly, unlike current Boomerang. He can throw boomerangs at super speed and not just
throw boomerangs.
Yeah. So
I like that this is genetic throwing boomerangs
because he even asks him. He's never met this kid before in his life, and he's like, I throw boomerangs too, you know. And he's like, oh wow, son, like,
you're my son. and it's important because he wants to know that Boomerang wants to impress his son because he's a loser trying to get a job with the calculator. Calculator's like, no one wants to hire you. You're washed up. And he's like, please give me a job. I want to make my son proud, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we also, like, I know we mentioned it last episode too, but there are some moments that aren't necessarily, like, plot-centric, but are, like, just some really good character moments where, like, we get a quick scene of them, like, trying to, like, it's Batman trying to investigate, like, who benefits from these killings? Like, what's the motivation here?
I would say this part is actually this almost core point of this story that I thought was really interesting. Because I was thinking about this too, because Batman's in the Batcave looking over this, and what was kind of neat is this is the first time we're actually getting Batman's perspective during this whole story, because he's just been in the Batcave the entire time trying to solve this mystery like the world's greatest detective.
And he actually has a smart idea here. Like, why go after every goddamn villain? What do they have to gain?
Yeah, the first rule of solving a crime, if you want to know who did it, you need to find out who benefits. So then it's this text box of who benefits in the top left corner. Well, it shows every other character in this story, like Boomerang hanging out with his son and being happy, the calculator doing business deals, and then it shows like Ralph crying on his couch
while a life insurance company is calling and, like, leaving a voicemail. And and then we have, like, an assassin who is basically just evil Green Arrow is, like, making a quick $3,000 because, like, now there's more heat on the villains. We have Tim Drake is like, you know what? I'm not going to go patrolling as Robin. I'm going to stay in with my dad. And
and this was a very interesting question to have about this, where it's like, obviously you would attack the superheroes' spouses and family to hurt them. But it's like, beyond that, what are you trying to do? Are you just trying to get them, like, mad at you? Or are you just doing it because you're crazy?
Yeah.
And, like, when you know the response they're going to have, it's the same reason in, like, a lot of really shitty neighborhoods and stuff. Like, criminals still don't try to kill cops because they know they will, like, the cops will...
they're going to be the ones to suffer the penalties.
Yeah, like, they're going to destroy the gang. Like, they, like...
Yeah. So then we get one scene that is...
comic books.
The most unnecessary scene in the whole book.
Yes.
It's just like it's like, here's a bunch of regular continuity bullshit. Here's a hint that Hal Jordan's gonna come back from the dead. Really doesn't add
Remember we
anything.
mentioned if you watch our Green Lantern episode,
Watch.
we talk about if you listen to our Green Lantern episode. We talk about how Green Lantern was a weird ghost thing,
and since he's a ghost, he's like, because you're a ghost. You like talk to God or something.
But
and he's like,
he obeys ghost laws, so he's like, I can't tell you though.
Yeah. So Hal Jordan's like, God says that he doesn't want you to know, so it's up to God's will. Sorry.
The biggest reason why I hate this scene is because this whole book is about like dealing with death and grief and like the lengths that it drives people, how like they break their moral codes and everything. And then when you just like are just reminded like, hey, comic book heroes come back as ghosts sometimes, where you could just go talk to them whenever you want, kind of undermines the whole theme to me.
Yeah, because so much of this is about loss and losing someone and the pain of that. And then here you have a scene where you have two best friends, one which lost the other. He just goes to his grave and it's like, hey, what's up? Can you tell me who did this? And he's like, no, I can't. Anyway, I'll be back soon. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
I have a
really
feeling that this was an editorially mandated scene where they were like, Hal Jordan's about to come back from the dead. We gotta tease that in this event. Because I think he came back later this year.
I hate the way they tease it too, because so Green Lantern goes to Hal Jordan's grave, like Hal Jordan as a ghost, and so Green Arrow's like, when are you really coming back, Hal? And he's like, don't worry, I'm gonna come back soon. Death doesn't mean anything in DC, basically. I'm like, that's a good thing to introduce into this story about death and hardship.
Yeah, and like this scene, like would be like, I would like this scene in a Green Arrow book almost, where it's like, you know, like Ollie is kind of like
lighter tone.
Yeah, exactly. But here it's just like, I have a feeling it's just DC being like, you have to do this because. Whatever, it's comic books. That's
Which,
what
again, it's just against the theme of this, where it's like there's people actually suffering from losing loved ones, and here you're like, whatever, death doesn't matter in comic book land. Woohoo!
And then to correct Sly's point from
Lois
last year,
Lane gets narration.
we do get 2 pages narrated by a woman.
Lois
Lane.
Oh my god! But this whole scene's pointless too in the end.
Yeah. So Lois Lane she's at work and she gets like an anonymous letter and she opens it and it says, Lois, I know who your husband is. You're next. And the S in husband has a Superman logo in it. And that ends the issue.
And we should note that I was saying this seems pointless in the end. We should note that the whole first 2 issues were red herrings. The whole Dr. Light never shows up ever again.
Almost all of this story doesn't make sense when you look at the ending. Like, it
really there's a lot of purposeful red herrings to really make it like, who the hell? How is this happening?
And then the writers at the end were like, who the hell could have done this? And they were like, it's this person, I guess.
I think it's a problem that I see in a lot of mystery stories where they over-explain too much, where like if we didn't have all the exposition about how good of a job they're doing investigating in the first couple crime scenes, then I think the twist would work a lot better. But like that's the problem. Like mysteries, they want to give you clues to guess with, but like
I think it would work better if it was shorter, because this issue is just like, it's kind of pointless in the end, because like Diana chases a dead end, and then like the whole Lois thing's pointless, where it's like it's quicker if you go through it faster, or it makes more sense rather than like really elongating it.
So the next issue opens with the superheroes being, we're sick and tired of tolerating this villain hub all of a sudden. Now we're going to bust them in their hideout. And they beat up the villains, and now they're going around everywhere looking for villains, saying, "What do you know about this crime?" And here we get around scene Firestorm,
who has not been in the book like at all, except for in the background.
Yes.
Deadshot shoots himself in the throat.
Oh yeah, to get Green Lantern's force field around him down.
Oh, it's
Green Lantern's like, oh my god, you shot yourself in the throat, and the Deadshot.
So what happens is Green Lantern chops him in the box. So Deadshot shoots the box, and it ricochets around and hits him in the neck. And Green Lantern's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He tries to help him, and it turns out it was like, "I got you. I shot myself in the throat to escape."
Yeah, and Superman just flies in, and Deadshot runs into him, and that's how he gets taken out.
So stupid. But I do like the scene, the panels of them squeezing all the villains. Like you see every DC superhero asking like, "What do you know?"
This is exactly what we were talking about, where it's like, if villains beating up on like superhero spouses, like this is going to be bad for villains. All these guys have like black eyes and they're beaten up.
Yeah, beaten badly.
Yeah.
So like we said, Firestorm is not a character, and he was an established character for like at least 20 years before this.
Yeah.
And but the editors were like, Firestorm has to die in the story. But the
editors have a tendency to give writers of events like a list of characters they can kill, and they're like, you got to pick 3 or 4 of them. You got to kill some.
Yeah,
And I also like how the way that he dies too. Who is Justin? He's the guy with the sword. They're like,
oh yeah, there's a
Justin's
black silhouette named Justin. It's great, lazy design.
No. Justin's not the silhouette. The silhouette is Sans.
Yeah,
okay.
That's Shining Knight. He's a Golden Age character. He's from the Seven Soldiers of Victory. I did not know he was in this book. I didn't even know he was in this decade.
Yeah, he takes Justin's sword, and I guess he's never encountered sword before because this guy who's literally a nuclear reactor gets beaten by sword.
See, I was thinking maybe it's like a magic sword because I'm like, why would you have a nuclear reactor flying around if one bullet can puncture him and blow him up?
Yeah, exactly. I thought the same thing.
Because I was like, it has to be magic sword, right?
It is a magic sword.
Justin's
I
magic
think
sword.
he uses Excalibur.
Oh my god!
Okay,
Well, he also melts Excalibur by putting it in this guy.
Oh yeah.
And so Firestorm is a nuclear man. He gets punctured and he explodes and dies. Has no impact on the plot whatsoever.
No, but what's interesting, I like this because they're trying to squeeze these villains, but not all of them go well. And when he gets stabbed, he's like, "I'm gonna explode."
Okay, so say like this happened to Spider-Man. This is how Spider-Man died. Would you be like, this is a good thing?
No, I'm not saying it's good that they killed him. I'm saying it ties into the theme of family because as he sacrifices himself to not kill other people, and as he's flying away, says, "Say goodbye to my dad and my family for me."
But like,
Yeah,
you don't think it would
blows
make more
up,
sense
which is
that like
sad.
he actually got to see his dad before him, or he was like an extra character before this?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, we want him incorporated into the story rather than like 2 pages of him blowing up.
Yeah, especially when I didn't know his name.
A lot of these deaths, I like. We talk about bitching about these kind of deaths. Most of them, I usually don't have a problem unless their characters are not part of the story. Like in Cry for Justice, when they killed off Roy's daughter, and she was not in the story literally at all.
Yeah.
She shows up as a corpse. I'm like, that's fucking stupid. Because if you're a fan of that character, like I said, imagine if Spider-Man died in this scene. Like, this is how Spider-Man died. Would you be like...
No, I totally agree.
Also,
And-
like, for what it's worth, Firestorm was on the Justice League in the 70s. You could have just made him part of that plot without really having to alter much.
Yeah. You could have left out the whole Bolt storyline.
Yeah.
Or the fucking Deathstroke fight scene. Or
I'm giving. Well, they wanted to have one big fight. I think.
Yeah, you gotta have a fight.
I'm giving these scenes probably more credit to because Green Arrow narrates them, and I like his narration a lot. Like, I think it's
he
well
fits
written.
like the noir style of the story.
He gives poignancy to them saying, like, some losses happen during these raids and stuff like that.
And like while he's even while he's going to explode, like he says, no one there is a physicist, but they know what happens when you puncture a nuclear reactor. I always gave the kid crap, but he's a pro. Vixen said he didn't even hesitate, so he just sacrifices himself right away, and having Green Arrow's narration there makes it work. But I understand like taking a major character and just blowing him up from a sword. I mean, it's Excalibur, I guess, but
It might be. I don't know. I'm not caught up on my
we're using backstory
night
to
lore.
even give any credence. We're giving all its backstory we know to give any nuance
relevance
to this.
Yeah.
Because it is random. Just a guy gets stabbed by a sword and explodes out of context.
But then it goes to an actual meaningful exchange between characters.
Yes.
Oh yes, now Ray and the Atom goes to meet his wife after injury.
So I really like the way this is framed because it introduces them with the narration of Ray Palmer and Jean Loring, divorcees.
Yeah, and then they start talking and they realize that they miss each other, they love each other. And she's like, I heard you praying for me as I was dying. It was really sweet. And it ends with narration Jean Loring and Ray Palmer, lovers. As they kiss and embrace.
Yeah, and it just like small stuff where he's all shrunk down looking at her, and she goes to scratch her neck, and he sees like the bruise marks from the noose. So then he jumps into bed with her in his normal clothes instead of the Atom clothes.
He jumps on top of the bed. He jumps under the covers with her or something like that. Like she's just,
he jumps on bed.
Yeah, onto the bed. Yeah, yeah. So he's just to comfort her while she's lying on the bed.
Yeah, which again is strengthening this theme of where it's like you see these people getting closer together.
Yes, and so speaking of it, things getting close, characters getting closer together. Tim Drake is like, I gotta go patrol. This killer's on the loose. Sorry, Dad. And Jack's like, yeah, go on, son. But Tim's having second
basically
thoughts.
says like, you should go. You know, you do a lot of good out there.
Yeah, Jack's like, I'm proud of you, son. Go do it. Go.
Well, he's also like in the beginning, he's more like upset with this being like, no one wants their son to be Robin and hang out with Batman, who's so far like one Robin has already left because they hate him, and the other one has gotten murdered,
died. Yeah, so it's a very natural progression. Jack is hesitant because his son is going to maybe getting himself killed. but he's proud of what he's doing. He's doing a lot of good, so he's like, "Go do it." Like, I don't like it, but you got to go do it. And Tim's like, "Thank you, Dad." He leaves, and then he gets a package to addressed to him with the same handwriting as one addressed to not Jean Grey, Lois Lane, and it has a box, a gun inside, saying "Protect yourself," and a note saying "Protect yourself." And so he calls out to,
and the R is in Robin font.
Yeah, so to make it clear that I know who your son is. And so Jack calls Oracle saying, "I need help." And we mentioned like they have all these defenses, but Boomerang breaks in through all the defenses.
Well, I don't know if there's
Yeah.
defenses
I don't think
specifically
so.
around Robin's house. We know it's around the other two, the Justice League wives'
Because
houses.
at this point, he only very recently told him he was Robin. This is like a very new change in Robin's like solo book. So like I don't think that they have any defenses in the house.
They say you have to request it too, specifically.
But, and Tim, but still, Tim just left, and like Tim's like right outside, but it's taking forever to reach Jack in time for Boomerang. This
Well,
fat
it's because
fuck.
he got in the Batmobile with Batman. We know Batman floors it through the city.
yeah.
But whatever, this fat fuck manages to break into the house all the way and get to Jack.
There's the two scenes when he goes to break in. It's a double page, and it's Tim trying to call his dad and talk to his dad. This is my favorite part of the 7 issues and stuff, because he's basically like, Dad, I'm gonna come. Don't worry, I'm gonna come save you. And his dad's like, cool down. Listen, I need you to. If anything goes wrong, it's not your fault. Please do not blame yourself for this. Which I really like, because there's just so many comics always like
The Uncle Ben thing, where it's like, this is my fault, I did this.
you kill family, to make the heroes feel bad and think back to whether or not they should be a good hero, but you never get it from like the victim's perspective of like this stuff. That I like that he knows that his son is Robin, and also like he's like, you should keep being Robin because this is a net benefit for Gotham.
Because Jack Drake is written like a real character here, with actual like personality and motivations and desires, whereas a lot of times when you kill supporting cast members, like we've seen in this book, they're just dead, and the only thing that matters is the reaction.
Yeah, whereas like here he gets to even say to him, I love you, Tim. I love you just like your mother loves you.
And he keeps saying while he's behind the thing with the gun, he's like, just keep my boy safe. Please keep him safe.
Yeah.
And Batman looks at fucking Robin like, oh my god, not again.
Yeah. And the thing, and at the same time, this scene is also intercut with Captain Boomerang's son, who is listening to a message on his answering machine, and it's just like, it's me, Dad. I got one last job that's gonna put us back on the map. Your old man's gonna make you proud. And he's just like, oh no. And he's like, don't worry. I mean, this is the real one. We'll be taken seriously again.
It's crazy that he to me, I'm like, this job he gets hired for is to kill an unarmed man in his house. Like,
I mean, they're villains.
but don't they like rob banks and stuff? Like,
Sometimes.
Calculator got a hit on Jack Drake.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so as Captain Boomerang kicks down the door, you see both Tim Drake and Captain Boomerang's son both yelling "Dad" at the same time.
It's the same word bubble
Yeah.
that they're yelling. And then it cuts to the dumbest comic. Like, this is such a comic book thing. I feel like this perfectly encapsulates my feelings on it, where I'm like, this is such great character moments between like family, a father and a son, and then it cuts to just this big fat guy with boomerangs strapped on his chest, and he's wearing a shirt that has boomerangs on it.
And so this fat middle-aged, out of work fuck, for Boomerang, manages to kill Jack Drake at the same time Jack Drake kills him, and they both die.
Hey, show some respect. He's a captain.
Guy with gun shoots other guy without gun, but guy without gun throws a boomerang, and that pierces through his chest.
The thing is, I'm gonna push back on your whole like he's a goofy looking like asshole guy, because he gets killed by just some guy with a gun, and I feel like if this was like a real intimidating or like established like big name A-list supervillain, it would be so dumb for him to get killed by Robin's dad. I feel like these guys are on equal footing here.
I know, I'm fine with that. It's just this idea of like comic book again, where you have like villains doing this thing where it's like, it would have been like more suspenseful if he came through with a gun, but you can't do that because he's Captain Boomerang, so he's got to use boomerangs to throw and kill people, and he kills Robin's dad, who's like, again, we have this really like tense close moment between Tim and his father, and then it's like he gets murdered by boomerang, and you're like, yeah, comics.
I'm just so broken that I don't even think about it as a boomerang.
Yeah, again, you see it as like just a vehicle for death. It's a weapon. Whereas I look at the weapon itself, I'm like, this is a dumb way to die.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Boomerangs do not. I mean, it's not how they work.
But I will defend Ryan a little bit in his own opinion.
Wow. Is it my birthday?
So it is. The whole point is that Boomerang was a joke, and like if he came in with a regular gun, like he's trying to make a name for himself, to make his son proud. So he's trying to show like, oh, we have respect. Obviously they don't because it's fucking Boomerang.
Yeah, like thematically it fits. I think that it's also just the fact that it's tied to like the Silver Age stuff, where again it's taking someone like Dr. Light and you're like, I'm gonna give them substance. Although this is a better way than Dr. Light because that's like the wrong way to give substance.
I think this works overall more because Boomerang is trying to get respect, and for him and his weapon style, and so he has to.
I feel like it's just too far gone. You can't do like again. It's like having like Kite Man come in and kill Batman's parents. It's like you can't.
You gotta read the new Kite Man origin though. It's so good.
Before we move on to the next issue, just want to say I looked up Sir Justin of the Seven Knights or whatever, and he was actually in Cry for Justice, helping fight Prometheus. He fought Prometheus.
I guess he has a history of being a random guy getting his ass kicked by people.
Yeah, he does not have a Excalibur. It is just a sword.
It does show you how bad that Prometheus fight is that we don't even remember how he fought that guy.
The Grant Morrison reboot of Justin was so much better because Justin was a trans character and it was just.
Oh, clever.
I like reading Wikipedia pages of these random characters when it's like, when they finally defeat Nebula Man, each of the seven soldiers of victory were tossed back in time. Justin met Genghis Khan and served him right before he was saved by the Justice Society, and then his memories return in Stars and Stripe. And then he gets his revenge on the Dragon King.
Oh, I remember that story. Stars and Stripe is great.
Oh my god. So Tim runs upstairs, and I didn't really understand why he was taking off all of his Robin clothes. But anyway.
Yeah, so he starts undressing. He starts undressing as he runs into the room.
It's weird.
Yeah. Imagine if Boomerang was still alive. Like he runs in.
Yeah, because it's like, don't you
naked.
need like your utility belt and stuff?
Yeah, like this is for dramatic effect. It's supposed to be because he's supposed to show how vulnerable he is. He comes in without his Robin suit, just like almost like
he's not his like dick's not out. I want to make it clear. He's in like
Grayson.
Like in his like sleeping garments, basically, like t-shirt, like a white beater and shorts. But like, if Boomerang was in that room like still alive,
yeah, you want to be
really
more
silly.
well equipped. Anyway, he goes to the room. He sees the boomerang sticking out of his dad. He's trying to like pull it out, and Batman comes over and comforts him. He's like, "I got you," and he holds him as the text box says, narration box says, "Batman and Robin orphans."
Yeah, which is despite like the goofiness of Robin running naked, I think is a powerful scene.
Yeah,
I like it too. And then we have Boomerang's son coming in to see what happened, and some government official being like, "Get out of here! Nothing happened. You don't see."
I kind of like this a lot because he's like, every time one of you villains dies, somebody shows up, and all of a sudden they revive them, and they're back to work. You know what? There's enough villains. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, and also I like it because it's kind of shown from like Boomerang's perspective, where he's like, "I want to see my dad," and they're like, "Fuck you, kid!" Like, and he sees Batman, and why does Batman get to see my fucking dad's course, but I can't? Like, I don't see Batman anywhere. Fuck you! Like, so it's like it's kind of like showing like
why they almost like turn to villainy and stuff because they're not respected or trusted in this world.
Yeah,
as
and
being,
the
like,
guy
family
is just
villains.
like, Batman's not here. I don't see anyone. It's just us agents. Like very like look the other way, which in a normal comic you're like that's just that's taken as a given. But when you're seeing it from the perspective of that's my dad in there,
yeah, it's really rude.
Yeah, legally it's weird, and that's why they talk about when someone gets attacked. One of the people gets attacked, they have to like tell the cops like stay away while the Justice League like gets to the crime scene first, which is very weird legally because it's like,
yeah, it's like extrajudicial outside the law.
Yeah,
yeah. Because they even mentioned that where they have to pull in favors for like the local police, and they're like, we'll take care of this, and we'll find who did this.
Yeah,
and then it cuts to Green Arrow, who's like he spars with his son, and today like all he wants to do is just like hug him, no sparring, and just let me know. I'll let you know how much I love you. Yeah.
And then we get a montage of a lot of characters, again, just like placing flowers on graves, and like Ralph is still mourning his wife, and we just see more just like characters that even if you don't know, you're just like, oh, these are just characters with dead supporting cast.
Yeah, which like I asked them because at one scene it says that they've lost sons, daughters, wives, husbands, and then it shows a person holding up a thing of the wedding of Barry Allen and Iris West, and I was like, is this Iris?
Iris? Yeah, I done the same thing.
I
Who
asked
is
them
this?
about it.
Yes.
I'm like, Iris comes back to life because earlier we saw that Barry was bad, that she was dead, and they're like, yeah, and then eventually,
Oh, I had no idea. I was like, that can't be Iris.
No, that's the thing is, like, you don't need these moments of reminding of resurrections. Like, none of the characters in here, like, you don't need to harp on
it's
this,
like
but
it wants to have its
bring
cake
it
and
up.
eat it
It's
too,
weird.
where it's like, look how tragic these deaths are, and then it's also like, but these people also come back.
Yeah, like it's like
Yeah.
look, your loved
It
ones
undercuts the theme.
Yeah, your loved ones could be in danger at any time. You have to do what it takes to protect them. But don't worry, if they do die, they'll be coming back from the future, something like that. Which happened to Iris. She went to the future and came back. Or
And
something.
Barry comes back later too, according to you guys.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But then the rest of the page has, it says mothers, and it's Wonder Woman at the grave of her mother, and of course fathers, and you have a young Bruce Wayne with Alfred, and Alfred says, "I'm sorry, Master Bruce." Then you have Bruce Wayne with Dick Grayson when his parents dies, and he says, "I'm sorry, Dick." And then now at Jack Drake's funeral, Bruce saying, "I'm sorry, Tim." And I think that, like, 1, 2, 3 is a really effective way to end this scene.
Yeah. The structure of the whole
Well,
comic.
it goes on like a little further, and it shows like the villains, like Captain Cold or whatever his name is.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, here we go. I'm sorry, Captain Boomerang and Captain Cold. I didn't realize they're both captains.
They have military records.
He's learning about his friend died, and you get an especially sad scene. This is the last time he's in the story of Captain Boomerang's son holding up the newspaper to his grave and saying, "Front page, Dad, just like you wanted."
He's not the last time he's in the story. He shows up later and he's like, I have super speed and boomerangs. What you guys want?
Oh,
He does.
okay.
Yeah, he
does,
then
he does.
becomes a member of the Flash's book and
Yeah.
like is part of the Rogues.
Yeah, so a lot of this is like for a lot of events is it ends like here, like with Tim Drake. Last scene of Tim Drake, last scene of the son, the Boomerang son. Last scene of Dr. Light. Dr. Light is in his home base, being like, I can't wait to do
He's
evil things.
thinking
now.
up some evil plan.
He goes to Washington D.C. and tries to kill all the Teen Titans. That's what he does next.
And the Teen Titans beat his ass too. So like,
Yeah, they beat the shit out of him.
yeah, I'm sick of Dr. Light being beaten up by Teen Titans. Let's have him be serious now. And now he raised people on top of being beaten up by Teen Titans. Good character development.
So then Green Arrow's on top of a roof, and Flash shows up, and we get like a dumping of Deathstroke being like, "I'm gonna get you," leaving you like
Yeah,
his
he's like a
mask or
note
something.
of his mask saying, "This is yours. We're not done yet." With Green Arrow's arrow.
Yeah, more tough guy posturing. But then Green Arrow ends up talking to Flash about, like, because Wally is like, how come... Because Dr. Light had that the Flash, he emitted his light that allowed them to see the scene of what was going on.
That's a dumb thing.
And
And
yeah, and
flashback.
Batman was there. So then Wally's like, you didn't tell me Batman was there the first time. What happened? Like, what did he decide? What was his reaction? And he reveals that as they were mind wiping him, Batman had left, and then he shows back up and he's like, "Oh, hey guys, I forgot my." And then... oh no, he
Well,
shows
he says
up
he
to
came
help.
back because it was Sue.
Yeah, to check on stuff. Okay, it's not silly.
We've been talking about how they left for a cleanup. So Batman came there
It's
to
like the
fight.
most human thing Batman's ever done. He came back
Yeah,
to like
actually,
support his friend, and they're like, "Fuck you, Batman."
Yeah, well, he starts getting mad because they're being mean to a villain and mind wiping him.
First thing to see.
They're lobotomizing him.
Batman leaves after the fight. He comes back to the teleporter saying, "Oh, so I gotta stay for this." And he's like, "Oh, you're brain wiping him." And he starts charging at them, saying, "Stop brain wiping him, motherfucker."
And then we get what would actually happen, which is the magic lady just stops him in place. Just
Well, the
freezes
thing
him.
that I like about this a lot is Ollie like says to Wally, he's like, "It's Batman. It doesn't matter if we all voted to do this thing. If he didn't think it was the right thing to do, he would never stand for it." Like that, like black and white, like my way or the highway kind of thing.
Yep.
And I like that a lot.
But so that's the justification used. They showed that like because Batman is like, "Stop! Get off him now!" He starts charging at them with his batarang rays. Like, I'm not gonna stand for this. So to show that like, Batman, like he's like he doesn't like respect their opinions enough. But like even by their standards, Batman will break their tie and cancel out their vote. So this is them deliberately being like, "Fuck you, Batman! Like you're not here for us. We're gonna fucking vote against you and mind wipe you too."
Also, they just don't trust him because, again, he's probably going to tell Superman, and then what Green Arrow's saying is that this is going to disband the League, and the League is bigger than just our personal feelings of right or wrong. Like, we're doing actual, tangible good in the world. So it's like we have to mind wipe Batman for the League's sake.
Yeah, we didn't say yet that they freeze him, but then they're like, we have to wipe him too. And then Wally's like, "What? Are you kidding me? Like, you mind wipe Batman?"
Yeah. So this is the league within the league kind of thing where
Yeah.
that really comes to fruition, where they view their group thing as more necessary to save the league than Batman's self-righteousness and Superman's self-righteousness. Yeah. So they're going to mind wipe Batman so he forgets this all.
Yeah, I like Green Arrow points out, it's like, haven't you learned anything? You know, we keep our own secrets by wearing the mask themselves because we have to protect our wife, our parents, our children. It's because all these villains are animals, he calls them.
Yeah. And so, like, again, like Ryan's like, I hate stories that make Batman dark and gritty, where this set up Batman on the course where he never trusts anyone ever again. And Ryan's like, I love this comic.
Okay, here's my defense about the cynicism of this book, because I think now's like a good part to put it, is they take the more morally gray characters, and they're the ones that are like the cynical, like, you know, like, and it's always like they're dealing with grief and all this stuff, where like Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman are kept, not that they're not part of the story, but they are still kept as the optimistic icons, where Batman was like, I won't stand for this morally gray thing, so they mind wipe him. And then yes, there's all these problems where, like, you know, then he doesn't trust anyone forever, but that's like kind of part of Batman's character to begin with, where it's not like they take Superman and make him the mind wiping person, or like they take Wonder Woman and like she supports rape or whatever. Like, Green Arrow has killed people in the past. Green Arrow has been a darker character who walks that moral ambiguous line more. And I feel like that's why I don't mind the cynicism in this book, because it doesn't taint as much as something like, you know, like other books would. You know what I mean?
Like if you did it to Batman.
I get it, because Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are so pristine. This idea that they were so pristine because the League was willing to do this shady stuff behind their backs to keep things morally clear. Like, they didn't have to. Batman and Superman didn't have to worry about mind wiping villains, because these League members took care of that issue for them. They were able to just come in and be the villains and leave. But this does lead to a story called Infinite Crisis, where it is all about how no one's inspired by Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman anymore.
I was gonna say, this leads into like the weird thing with the Alan Moore stuff, where it's like, are you judging a story by what it helped to create down the road? Like, that's a weird way to judge a story, is like, because it led to people hating Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman. I don't necessarily knock this story for it.
Here's why I would comment against that argument, because this is setting up status. This is the whole point. This is set up status quo. That's why Dr. Light. If you live it by itself, then these flaws get amplified more, because then what's the point of Dr. Light? The whole point of Dr. Light is to set up stories later on. Whole point of Captain Boomerang is to set up stories later on. Whole point of
yeah,
is to set up stories later on.
Which I think is like the dumb stuff of this story, is like them having to be like this, the comic book stuff, like with Hal being like, I'm gonna come back. It's like, this is unnecessary.
But that's the problem with the event stories, because that's why I always have event stories. The structures as a whole always have these problems, which is why I think story.
I think that's fair.
To begin with.
So Batman goes to see Calculator, because it's like, hey, Calculator's probably the one doing all this. Well, Calculator's talking to, I think, like Merlin or somebody.
Merlin not being Merlin from the Wizard. It's like the evil Green Arrow, Ryan.
Yeah, and he's like, I haven't done this. I'm not the one doing anything. And then he leaves a note for Batman saying, we're not all morons. And that he's not the one. He's also not there, and he's not the one purposely agitating superheroes.
Yes.
So then, Dr. Midnight or whatever, Midnighter.
Dr. Midnight is the one doing the autopsy. He's been just kind of in the background doing the autopsy the whole time.
He's actually the one who moves the plot forward.
Yeah.
That's a good point. He's a non-character in the story, but he moves the plot forward more than any other.
Well, no, but him and, I know you guys are going to laugh at me, but him and Mr. Terrific are the ones that throughout the whole book, they have been doing the autopsy, and it's not like they just show up here and say it. Like, we do see scenes throughout of them, you know, doing lots of different medical things, and they are the doctors of pretty much the universe at this point.
Yeah, which I think is kind of neat, because this book's whole thing is basically setting up, like, they're doing the autopsy, moving the plot forward, and most of these issues are just seeing how superheroes react to this problem of not knowing.
I think it's ironic, because it's a mystery story and they have all these detective characters, and none of the detective work at least many things. All these other characters in the background.
It's because it was such a good mystery. It stumped them all.
Yeah, it's such a good mystery.
Yeah, it is a very shitty conclusion, IMO. Like, just the autopsy reveals everything, so why, you know, like, whatever.
I feel like a lot of murders are like that, right, guys?
Yeah, but they don't write novels on those. There's no detective needed. It's just the autopsy. The coroner can do it.
Yeah, and the reveal from the autopsy is that somebody was stepping on Sue's brain, and that's how she died. And
that she got a block in her brain that stopped the blood flow, and those little dots you see, they're footprints.
Yeah. So it's very specifically someone stepping on her brain.
And so that means it's who shrinks on people's brains. Who did I set up as a guy who shrinks and steps up on people's brains?
So it leads to
Ray Palmer.
the cliffhanger of the episode of Jean sitting in bed reading like a thing, and she's like, I can't believe it was Captain Boomerang that like tried to kill them, and who killed Sue? And then it shows the Atom like looking smug in the mirror like, why are you so surprised? He's been trying to kill us for years. Like he's evil, and it shows one more of like him smirking as he like goes to turn off the light, and she's like, out like that look in your eyes. And then the next issue immediately reverses everything.
Yeah, another red herring. Like Brad Meltzer couldn't end of another red herring. Right
the
there.
reddest of herrings. I don't like that look in your eyes. He's like, what look?
Well, because then she says, like, did you ever find out who left that note for Jack Drake? Like, why say that?
Especially since she was the one who did it.
Yeah, because he's like, how'd you know there was a note? You know, it's like that
why
old
say
joke
it? Why
where
say
it's
it?
like, you know, oh, I think my wife's cheating on me. There was a tie in the bedroom. And they're like, yeah, you don't even wear red ties. And I'm like, how'd you know it was a red tie?
Like, why would you give more detail than?
Yeah, like, didn't you find out?
Yeah.
Don't you want to think more about this thing I did?
Yeah,
And so Batman figures it out.
yeah. And so Ray Palmer's like, "You tell me everything you know. You goddamn it!" And she says, "Like, I did everything. I stole your shrinking Sue, and I shrunk into her brain, and I tried to kill her."
Didn't try to kill her. She wanted to scare her.
Yeah, even though I divorced you, but I decided I'm going to try to get you back by stepping on.
Sue Dibney's
My
brain.
friend's
In
brain.
defense of this turn, Jean Loring has kind of been a crazy piece of shit forever.
But
That's kind of
like-
been a thing since
no,
the
but-
late 60s.
But she's not crazy though.
No, she is crazy. This is serious crazy.
Which is why she probably said she made a remark about the note, because she's not that smart.
After all the orchestrating, you think in court they'll be able to make a legal case that she's insane? Like, she has a crazy motive, but everything she does is very...
She hangs herself to death. Like,
Yeah.
she is hanging there limp. The phone has like.
But she
picked up
called.
the
She
phone to
saw the
call
phone. Ray. She could confirm that Ray was on the other end, so she knew unless Ray lets her die, which she probably wasn't going to do. That Ray was going to save her in enough time, probably. Like, everything was very planned out, in my opinion. Like, I don't think you'll be able to.
That's still like a very like risky plan, hanging yourself hoping your husband comes.
She was shot the underworld and got a hitman out on Jack Drake. Like, she got contact with the criminal underworld, the calculator. Like, she was very involved. Like, I was in court.
Yeah,
You
I'm
would
not
say
saying that she's like she's completely incapable of action, but she obviously has like a serious mental.
Like, she's a psychopath.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a psycho.
I don't know. Like, she's so insane that it justifies any dumb parts of her plot, but she's so
No.
not insane that she's able to orchestrate all the.
I'm not saying it justifies anything. I'm saying that she's a psychopath.
I'm saying it's. I guess psychopath would be more psycho.
Yeah,
but
well,
no,
I mean,
yeah.
this is the flaw with like using the crazy people that are actually super smart as a thing, because you can justify any of the dumb things with,
I mean,
oh well, they're
exactly.
insane. They're not thinking logically, but they think logically enough that they cover their
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah. So what
yeah.
she does, she in her perspective, the Jedi are evil. No, she says I wanted to beat up Sue so that all the heroes would get scared about their wives, and then you, my ex-husband, would miss me and come back to me to protect me, and then we'd all be happy. But I
He
accidentally
says to her, he's like, "You thought I'd come running back to you?" And she goes, "And you did, Ray. You did."
Yeah.
yeah.
She could have just called him and said, "Hey, I don't want divorce anymore." Like,
Yeah.
Even the actual motivations and stuff, like, even though like the plot is pretty weak here, we weren't questioning while we were reading it, like, why would Ray go to her? Like, it all works thematically, like, just from a pure motivational perspective.
Yeah. The crazy thing is to me that she accidentally jumps into her brain, steps on her brain. Okay, it's a little weird. But then when she realizes she killed her, she becomes big again.
Yeah.
Takes a flamethrower out of her jacket that she shrunk.
That's where the big plot comes in, because when she goes to the full size, because she gets into the house through the phone, and and this all makes perfect sense, like mystery wise. She goes into the phone line, goes into her brain, and kills her that way. But then she goes to full size, and then flamethrowers Sue Dibney, and this leaves no trace whatsoever. In the panic, she says, "I was in the panic, and in the panic I killed her." She perfectly hides her flamethrowing of this woman.
Not one bit of her DNA on the crime scene either.
No hair, no smell that
Yeah,
Animal
that's the
Man
big
could
problem.
pick up. Whatever.
Yeah, who is this?
And they also rewrite in the flashback to tell her how she did everything else. They rewrite like her when she hangs herself as her shrieking up into her fucking into the noose, like She's in
It's
the
so
Atom
dumb.
costume, and then she shrinks up,
Yeah, that's
and
a
now
weird one.
she's blindfolded. And as we saw her blindfolding herself in the previous time, they showed the scene. Like, now they're rewriting the previous scenes in the flashbacks.
Which again
Yeah,
was
I
like
really
dumb
did-
that she would be sitting there being like, I guess she called them and said all those things.
Okay, but the phone was 33-second long phone call before he shows up. Like, you're taking a pretty big risk there. Like, but I guess if she's
Anyway,
like,
I feel like we're getting into a lot of minutia that's obviously just
Yeah.
wrong. Because the
Yeah,
big
yeah,
thing
this-
is
this-
she was doing all this
Yeah.
thing, and Adam's realizing for once a week, Bruce has been asking the same question over and over. The only question we couldn't answer: who benefits? And as it's saying this, it's showing that it's like Clark with Lois, and it's showing the Adam with her, and then it shows Tim Drake with his father, and it's basically who benefits from like all these crimes is the people that are still alive from the family. Which is why she was
Yeah,
doing all
people
these
are
things,
still
and that's why
alive,
she
yeah.
set up Tim Drake's dad, is because she sent the gun there because she purposely hired a bad superhero villain, Captain Boomerang.
She had the same misconception you guys did. The Captain Boomerang's just a joke,
Yeah.
and he'll just
What-
get shot.
What's
and killed.
crazy is like you're still hiring a supervillain to kill someone. Like,
Yeah.
like that's
She gave him a
presumably
heads up.
like presumably if I hired a random guy on the street to kill Darryl and I gave him a gun, I have to expect that Darryl is probably going to get shot
Yeah.
in this, right?
Which again, she's not thinking
Well,
clearly.
I mean, at that I feel like is more justified where she's a psychopath that will do anything to get, for Ray to feel like he needs to protect her. But like, because that like isn't a plot hole. It might not be enough motivation for you, but I feel like
Yeah,
it's
no, I
less
know.
of a plot hole than like how come she doesn't have footprints in Sue's house.
I agree. It's not a plot hole. It's just like really.
I feel like it's
insane
lazy
to me.
to be like, oh, everything that makes no sense is she's crazy. Everything that doesn't make sense because she's really smart. I think that's like the worst of both worlds.
For me, I actually really like this twist, and I really enjoy this because, like, I think execution-wise, it leaves like a lot to be desired, and it makes like everything in the past look really dumb, like all the comic stuff of like having Mr. Miracle come in there to investigate, and the Metal Guys and Animal Man. It's like for her to flawlessly do this twice is really dumb, especially when it's clear she's not thinking reasonably. Like she would have to leave something behind.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Why I like it is it was such an inversion on like what I expected out of a superhero comic, where again it's not a villain, it's literally an ex-wife that just wanted her husband back, and the lengths she went to stage this kind of like struggle. There was not one fight in this last issue which I was not ready for like comic. Like the big fight is the Deathstroke fight, that's it.
Yeah.
That's why I completely agree, Darryl. That's why I give this book a pass a lot and say like overall I like it despite the flaws we said, is because even though like you said the plot wise it doesn't really work as well, the motivation is really, really interesting to me.
Yep,
Yeah,
I
it's emotional
agree.
manipulation at like the end of the day is what the main crux of this problem was.
Yeah.
And why the superheroes struggled so much is because it was inside of their own group, and it wasn't like another superhero doing this. It was a spurned lover that like orchestrated this. I like that idea a lot.
When you were
agree.
talking about this, you were saying it's gonna suck because it's gonna be something I don't know, and it's gonna be motivation I don't give a fuck about. It's gonna suck, and this is why I think it's a good intro book for a lot of the readers. Because even if you don't know any of these characters, you can understand that Jean Loring was divorced from Ray Palmer. You see them together, getting closer, and you can see the process of her master plan coming together. Even if that master plan doesn't make full sense, it worked out the way it did, and it kind of ties in together with what the story's about, which is families being threatened.
I really like the motivation, and I'm not someone where it's like where if there's too many plot holes, I lose track of it. It's sort of like with this, where like I admire the ambition of like, hey, what if it's just your ex that's like the shittiest person in the world?
Yeah.
Type of deal. Like I think that's a cool thing.
You're like that's the best motivation. The most relatable feeling.
Well, think about like all these villains and stuff.
It's important to note
like,
when we're talking about plot holes. A lot of times, plot holes, like obviously, there's limits to everyone when the plot hole bogs down.
Yeah, like when it bothers you.
Yeah, when the story just becomes like anything the writer decides happens, nothing has to make sense. Now you're just fucking making up shit as you go along, and also, but there's still where this story's full of plot holes, but I still like the central theme of it, motivation enough that I will tolerate it, just because this payoff was clever enough that I appreciate the thought that went into it.
Yeah, and there's enough plot holes that where it's like I don't even I don't consider the plot with this being, because obviously there's a lot of issues here.
Yeah.
But it's like I just admire it because again, like especially because I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really like about the story too is more so than most comic book events, I feel like this book elevates a lot of characters that they were doing like nothing with.
Yeah.
Like the Atom was not
Like
really
Firestorm.
like in anything at this point.
Like Firestorm
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, like Firestorm. But like I mean like Elongated Man was in a couple miniseries, but like he was not part of the main universe. And like it really sucks that like
killed
everything that
Fridge's
happens to
wife.
Sue. Yeah, and I don't like that at all. But like the fact that this is mostly about Green Arrow and Kyle, whose book was like about to end, Wally,
Oh,
and
Wally more so, yeah.
yeah, and Ray, like that to me is really, really interesting because it's not like most events, which are like Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, or Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Like I like that that's why I say it's like a quieter event.
And also important to know, because you like a lot of events where they have like a mishmash of characters, like a bunch of B-listers. One problem I have with a lot of those events is that it doesn't feel natural. Like it feels like why these characters together, like in Countdown or some stories like that, where
Yeah.
it feels like it could be a random, and they picked up a hat, like which characters are going to be focused on this event. But here it's a very natural fit because it's all the neglected characters from an iconic team, and the point is that they were the ones that are really keeping the team together behind the scenes.
Yeah, and no one was paying attention to what they were doing.
Yes. And so it was
Yeah.
it was a very clever way to use that. Like despite all the flaws, there's a lot of clever things going on with the themes that make the story worthwhile.
I agree, and I want to wrap it up because I think even the ending does like the way they wrap up all the storylines is pretty genuine feeling.
I will say I will say just to make fun of the plot for one point. So Ray sends her to
Yeah, wait, I want to read this line. She says, "What are you gonna do? Punch me in the jaw? Take me to the cops and lock me away? You can't just throw me in some cell and toss the key."
I'm
and
your
the
wife,
frame-
Ray.
Next panel, he does that. He takes her to Arkham Asylum. He admits her into Arkham Asylum without telling anyone else.
Which is the worst place. Arkham is a terrible place.
She has no powers.
Are there not any other like mental hospitals
right.
in this
And
world?
she doesn't have to do a
Arkham.
trial to prove that she's insane. Your husband can admit you, say, "Hey, yo, my wife's totally crazy." You can just admit your wife to Arkham, and they'll take
Well,
her.
he
Just
might have
how
like a-
shitty Arkham is. They're like, yeah,
he
we'll
has
take her.
like a
Go ahead.
connection or something. Yeah.
And they say there's still paperwork. Where are you going? And he says, just take care of my wife.
He doesn't even finish the paperwork. They just take his word on it. Your wife's crazy, sure, and they just lock her up.
Yeah, lock her away forever.
He does, for what it's worth, though, Ray not only has a history, and also it happens here, of every time something really terrible happens, he has a complete nervous breakdown, and that's what happens here.
Yeah, he does. He shrinks down and he's like, "I want to go away," and just vanishes.
He shrinks down for just a little behind the scenes for another story. He shrinks down and finds a way to travel the multiverse and goes to a universe where him and Jean are together, and he waits until a Ray Palmer dies and he just takes his place.
Yeah.
What?
Wow, that is. Oh,
That
Yeah.
is something. Well, so we get a lot of Green Arrow narration for the end of this, and they say, we all go on with our lives, but because this is life. And what's also really fucked up is you see the National Enquirer, and the headline is "Adam's wife tortured by inmates." So it's really fucked up because she's not like a supervillain; she is a murderer. She should be in jail, but not like Arkham Asylum. Anyway,
You have to prove she's fucking insane first of all in court.
yeah.
And this is when Firebird quits, by the way, saying "fuck the superhero shit, it's too fucked up."
Yeah.
Yep.
Probably a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see a lot of the families together, Green Arrow and his son,
Yeah, Clark holding hands with his mom out in a cornfield.
Tim crying over his dad, and
My favorites, just a real quick thing of Mr. Miracle going, microscopic, huh? No, it makes perfect sense. Like he's saying to the reader, don't think about how it happened. No, I checked it, and like the story works out.
But
couldn't
Mr.
find
Mr.
her.
Terrific does have a scene here because in the background he's like, "I'm not going to be a superhero anymore. Mr. Terrific's a dumb name." Then he's like, "All this inspired me to be a superhero again. Somehow throughout all this, I'm
That's not
inspired."
Mr. Terrific, that's Black Lightning, dude.
Yeah. Well, racist Sly strikes again.
Anything more pointless? What the fuck is Black Lightning's plot here? He just says
He was in the very first page talking to what's her name, Katana, and he's like, "Oh,
Zatanna, right?
No, Katana. Zatanna's the magician. Katana.
God damn it!
All right, never mind.
Black Lightning's here because he was fully retired. He was actually the Secretary of Education for the government at this point.
Wow.
And after this story, he unretires because Meltzer wanted to use him when he took over Justice League.
All right, in my defense of my racism,
why
if we're
he's
keeping this in my defense of my racism, I thought because Mr. Terrific was the autopsy guy that they actually had a subplot here, but no, Mr. Terrific has no subplot here whatsoever.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a subplot from issue 1.
I also like this Arthur Miller quote. If you're talking about this being the end of like funny DC, where they say an era can be said to end when its basic illusions are exhausted. If this is supposed to be like a fresh start for DC, that's grittier and darker and more whatever. I think it works well. And we also see Green Arrow and the Flash talking again, and he's again saying like,
Did you say the Flash because you couldn't remember his name?
Yes, I was like, I don't want to fucking get made fun of for saying Barry or Wally, whatever. He's like, you really shouldn't have done that to Batman. You ruined it. And he's like, no. Green Arrow says the League endures. Like that's what it's designed to do. The League is still here, and that's what's most important. And then, like you said, we have a lot of scenes of like Clark with his mom, the Justice League, debating over who's going to go
Wally
after.
asks. First he like goes, hey, if you're around, and he's like, I'm not joining your fucking Justice League anymore. I'm retired or whatever. I'm a reserve member. And Wally's like, no, like, do you want to like get dinner or something? Like, all of us together. And like that to me just sets up like that this universe is now going to be more friends and less work friends. Like
Yeah. Yep. And we see them like talking about the next mission they're going to go on, and Bruce looks happy.
Bruce is not happy. Bruce is in the corner like sulking.
Covered in shadow.
Yeah.
And he's like, is there a problem, Wally? Because Wally knows, and he's such a good detective. He's like, nothing I will say. He's like, say what you're thinking. And he just stares at him.
And then the epilogue is sad. It's elongated. Man at home, Ralph.
Just to give some context, before I forget who says it, but a character's like
Ollie says it to Ralph. He goes, you should talk to your wife. Even though she's not there, like, she'll hear you.
And so the final scene is him just Ralph by himself going to sleep and talking as if Sue's there. And
yeah, he's talking like saying, yeah, they're good. Tomorrow I'm having dinner with Wally and Kyle, and yeah, they're good boys. I got to tell you the story that Wally told me. And then he lays down in bed.
He tells her a joke, and he goes, yeah, I know, you've probably heard it already.
And then it ends with the text saying, Ralph and Sue Dibney, husband and wife. The end.
Yeah. And it ends with him saying, I love you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's Identity Crisis.
Wow.
Would you guys read more?
So 2 years later, Brad Meltzer did a full relaunch of Justice League and stayed on it for like 2 arcs. Would you guys read more of Brad Meltzer's Justice League?
I would.
See, I would only read it if it stays low key and it's more about like relationships between people, because that's what I was super into with this whole thing, is because this whole like series is about like what family means to you, the lengths you go to protect them, like there's moral ambiguities in there and stuff. Whereas like if it's just like let's fight Deathstroke, or like all the things with the villains wasn't interesting me, and like the way the mystery resolves itself isn't strong enough to have me have faith that he can pull off like a really big type of story where it's like, oh man, this is crazy, I wonder what's going to happen next, even though I felt that way here.
It is a pretty divisive book, but his first arc
is
issue? All about Red Tornado and if he's an android or a human and what that means for him and his family. So like, it's very, if you like Identity Crisis, I think it's worth continuing. If you don't, it's not, like one of those, like, if you like this style, I think it's very good, but not a lot of people like it.
See, for me, it would have to be like, it would really have to focus on that, would be my hope.
Alternative take, would you want to see a next event that this ties into?
What does this tie into?
This eventually leads to when Batman finds out about what happened to him. Would you be...
I would be interested in that.
Yeah.
Because that was actually more than the mystery. Was the more interesting part to me was the idea that there's like a league within the league mind wiping people, and like whether or not that's justifiable, like in terms of
how they would deal with
now,
that.
Would you be more or less interested if you knew it was called Crisis of Conscience?
Way less interested.
I was thinking of more about Project Olmec.
Oh yeah, that too.
There's like 2 sequels?
So Conscious Crisis is where he learns it. Olmec is what he does because of it, and it takes him down a very dark path.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, well, we would do it next week, but next week is going to be Halloween, Mom, so fuck you, listeners. We're going to be doing Uzumaki, so get ready for that.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. I don't know anything about it.
Oh, it's a trip. There's a lot of cool stories in it, and there's a lot of weird stories in it.
Cool. I'm excited. Okay, so that's it for Identity Crisis. Actually, I have one question for you, Slide. Did you like it more now or
definitely.
less?
A lot more now.
Yeah, I think I liked it a lot at the beginning, then I didn't like it as much. Now I think I'm like right in the middle. I like it not as much as I used to, but more than I did when I like reread it the first time.
We go to this with all these early 2000s events. I think part of it's because it's like the first time you were introduced to these kind of things on both ends. This is the first time I was introduced to this type of story in mainstream comics. It's the first time you were really introduced to comics in general. So everything was new to you, and this is when everything started getting dark in DC. So I was like rejecting that front, so I hated it just like I hated Civil War. But then when I read it again, I was able to look at it more on its own merits, and I was able to appreciate the merits more. But while you first were like, this is so great, then you're like, I see the flaws. Then you're like, but now I can kind of accept it for its flaws, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when you hold something in like really high regard or really low esteem, you can have like that whiplash effect where you're like, I was actually looking at this or judging it too harshly or too kindly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Mega Man X7.
Fuck you. That can't be judged harshly enough.
But like I said, I think this is better than almost. I can't think of a Marvel event this is better than. I mean, this is worse than.
I like Secret Wars a lot, but that's besides the point.
I haven't read Secret Wars, so maybe they exist, but like generally, DC is better events than Marvel by a long shot.
Yeah. Oh no, I would. 100%.
Yeah, I wish Civil War 2 had more like personal moments.
Yes, exactly.
Where it was people talking to each other rather than like a lot of like angry, like them staying at a table. Because even when Green Arrow and Wally talk to each other in this, it's not like they're like, I'm gonna fight you over.
Yeah,
this
they're just
thing.
chatting.
I didn't realize how little fighting was in this until you guys pointed that out.
But that's important to clarify because Marvel events are all about like getting big shit to happen and characters die and shit like that to happen. While DC always, a lot of times, it's a central writer over central vision, and like he gets editorial mandates like Firestorm has to die, but a lot of times it's more focused and more personal for that writer than what happens in Marvel.
Are you telling me that Mark Millar doesn't have a central vision?
Well, I don't have a response to that. That's so insane. I'm saying.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for indulging us in a two-parter.
And don't hesitate to shit on us for being hypocrites about this compared to League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, I would really love to hear everyone's opinions on Identity Crisis because it's a story that gets revisited a lot. And I have done a little bit of looking into the behind-the-scenes stuff, and apparently editorial did not treat the more problematic elements well at all. So if you have any more detail on that than like my cursory Twitter searching for it, definitely let me know because I'm always really interested in that kind of stuff. And yeah, so also let us know what you think about two-parters because we usually don't like them as much, but sometimes we feel like a story we really want to cover is worth it. So let us know about that in our Facebook group or a Discord.
Yes, let us know if you want to do big events like this more often, like two-parters, or stuff we're doing already, more like small, short events. Stuff.
And also check out the rest of the shows, the Flying Machine Network, flyingmachine.network. I would especially recommend Falling in Love Montage because they just had their 69th episode. Nice.
Yeah,
and
nice.
they revisited one of their favorite movies, Dirty Dancing, with the sequel, Dirty Dancing Havana Nights. And I've never seen any Dirty Dancing movies, but people love them a lot. So, the second one's not as good, but it's interesting. It's an interesting discussion. So, I don't know. I like the episodes
do you
about
do
them.
that? You slide it into conversations people are having about something you don't know, and you're like, hey,
That's what I do. I don't know, but you do. So inform me. So yeah, that's, check out all that stuff. It's good.
Okay.
So thank you all for listening to Divisive Issues. I've been admitted to a mental hospital because my husband recommended it.
I've been having multiple crises every couple years.
I've been having an identity crisis trying to keep all these heroes' names straight.
And I've been a fat man with boomerangs stepping on your brain.
Stay in continuity.